What are you doing?
I'm reversing the polarity of the ultrasonic screwdriver's power source.
Reverse the polarity.
Reverse the polarity.
I just reversed the polarity.
Welcome to The Fan and the Fool, everyone. I'm the fan, Matt Antonelli.
And I'm the fool, Alex Cameron.
Now, Alex Cameron.
Yes, Matt Antonelli.
I've brought something just to inspire you as we go along this journey together.
Oh, that's lovely.
It's the thing that the TARDIS people, the TARDIS crew, it's the thing that takes them on their journey. So I'm just going to put it here on here.
Ooh, lovely.
How does that look?
It looks great. Should I say what it is?
Probably,
It's
because this is not a visual medium.
It's the TARDIS.
Ooh, he knows the name of it.
Blue police box.
Now, what do the letters TARDIS stand for?
T stands for time.
Yes.
S stands for space.
There's other letters in between.
I don't remember.
Time and relative dimensions in space.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it
Dimension in space.
Yeah.
Now I might have to look that up.
Someone's
going to correct me.
Which Susan named, but I know that's going to be a thing later.
Because Susan said she made the name out of the letters of it. So It's called a TARDIS, and then it's an acronym, and then she said she made up the words that go with that acronym, as opposed to that being that it's actually called. But
Really? Is that what she said? Or is
yeah, in that first episode where she goes, time and relative dimensions in space, I made it out of the letters. Either that, or someone will comment on this podcast and just rage about how I've misheard.
I thought she was saying, it is these things, therefore these letters make the word TARDIS, so I'd call it the TARDIS.
Do you want me to play we'll go back to the first episode and I can play it now?
No. We've got 3 episodes to discuss.
Yeah, we do. We've got 3. So we're starting with the Daleks. We've moved on from An Unearthly Child. And because this one's 7 episodes, we're going to split it in half.
Yeah.
Into 3/7 and 4/7.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about the first 3 episodes. And I think probably not a bad way to split it, the way the third one kind of ends.
Yes. We kind of decided just by chance to do it that way because we thought we'd want to probably discuss the Daleks in general.
Yeah.
That was just me kicking the table before
Yes.
we continued. But I guess it does work with how the story is completed where we are right now.
Yeah. I will just say, you can't, you tapping your hand on the table. That's coming right through my ears.
Oh, really?
Yes. So we'll fix that. Maybe people will be like, what's he talking about? I can't hear any tapping. And that's because we fixed it. Okay?
This is very entertaining.
And another act of professionalism, we have coffees on the way. So at some point, we will get coffee and drink it during the podcast.
Yeah, well, I see it as a wise business decision because then we will think more clearly and speak more efficiently and fluently.
The Dead Planet. So I'm just moving on. The Dead Planet, which is the first episode of the Daleks.
Yes.
So written by Terry Nation. That name's going to come up a lot because people love him. Because I guess he has created this episode with these creatures that you're going to see heaps and heaps of. So the first thing I noticed, so it takes off where the end of An Unearthly Child ended.
Yep.
Which is the dangerous radiation levels appearing on the monitor.
And they don't see that. They've missed it.
Yeah. And a really weird dynamic happening because between these 4 people that are traveling in the TARDIS, Ian and Barbara are still this old man, he's such an awful person. And they've essentially just still remain kidnapped by him.
Yes.
And as we go through the episode, they work together to solve problems. And then sometimes sometimes the doctor's well done. And then sometimes he's I still hate you. You know what I mean? There's that still constant shifting between who the doctor is.
Well, I suppose if someone kidnaps you, completing a few tasks together doesn't suddenly make you friends. Imagine if that happened to one of us in real life.
Correct.
That's called Stockholm Syndrome.
That's exactly what I thought when they're
really?
as we go on, and they're like, you know, they become more of a team.
Yeah.
I'm like, he still kidnapped you. Like,
that's the only reason you're in this position at all.
but we will get to that.
Yes.
My favorite bit. So they walk out. I've just put Ian finds dusty branches.
Yes.
So they've ended up on this planet that is dead, and so they're in like a forest, but all the forest is kind of like made out of like stone and stuff because it's gone all. I think the doctor says petrified.
Yeah.
So as soon as Ian touches a branch, it just like crumbles. Like a twig. He doesn't pick up a whole branch. And I put at 4 minutes 10 seconds. There's a hideous creature that's displayed on the screen. Do you remember the hideous creature?
Are you talking about the lizard crocodile type thing?
Yep.
I do remember.
Yeah, did you think it was hideous?
I thought it just looked like a...
Well, they all freaked out like it was like a terrifying creature, and I was like, that's fine.
It also wasn't moving, it was clearly metal, or whatever it is.
So,
yeah, I didn't see it as a problem. I don't know what the big deal was.
No. I've already got one where, like... So, I don't know if you know this already, or if I mentioned it. So, William Hartnell, who's playing the Doctor...
Dr. Whodunit, yes.
He already mistakes Ian's name. I'm not sure if you heard it.
I actually didn't. I missed that.
Chesterfield.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that now. As the last name, is it Chesterfield?
It's Chesterton.
See, I don't remember. I just know him as Ian.
Yeah.
So
and that could be the Doctor just being, you know, annoying, but I think it's probably the actor just not remembering that character's name.
Really?
Yes.
So it's not an intentional slight on him as part of the show.
No,
you don't think?
I don't. Well, it could. You mean you could read it as both, but I mean, there's plenty of dialogue problems that come up eventually. So I think that's probably what's happening.
There's one in the next episode I want to ask you about actually. Because
really?
I don't know if it's intentional or not.
One of my favorite things that comes up is the Doctor puts on like a pair of glasses.
Yes.
It comes up a lot.
The binocular type glasses?
Well, there's two. He puts on
okay.
like some just spectacles to like look at something.
Yep.
And then he's also got these awesome binocular glasses, which seem to zoom right in on a very realistic looking city, obviously. Mm-hmm. But though, like, it's a thing that comes up a lot, the Doctor just having glasses, but does he actually require glasses?
Interesting. I didn't notice anything that suggested it here, but you're saying that comes up.
Yes.
Okay.
So I want to know if they're real specs or just brainy specs. So I've got 10 minutes in. Susan screams again.
Of course.
So they've gone and looked at the city.
Yes.
And then they're on their way back, and so they're finding their way through the forest. And Susan gets tapped on the shoulder.
Yes.
And like screams.
Freaks out.
Not a super loud scream, not a classic Susan scream,
mm-hmm.
but still pretty much just like, I'm still a helpless person, and runs into the TARDIS. And the Doctor manages to convince her that it's just all in her head.
Yes.
How good's that?
Well, I have a question for you. You mentioned in the last episode that she is a bit telepathic, or she picks things up.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of that going on.
Well, she senses that someone's there before she's touched.
Yeah,
and I don't think it's that she heard them. I think they give the impression that she just knows someone's there.
Yeah, and this is where it's like, suddenly the Doctor is now nice to Barbara because he's managed to tell her, convince Susan that there's no one out there. And he's like, oh, can you have a talk to her for me? And Barbara's like, yeah, sure. This man who I'm trapped with, I'll help talk to your granddaughter. And also, just by the way, how do they not know, like, her... Like, they're looking, like, are they looking to help her from this old man? I'm just not sure what their plan is too either. Like, do they think she's also trapped with him?
Yeah, because they don't seem to be angry with her.
No.
But I also think they're just trying to survive because they are on a different planet.
Yes.
Being chased by something.
Yeah, something. Yes. And Barbara then has a headache as well. And I've just put, maybe it's all that radiation.
Yeah, that's what... I think that's when I thought there must be something going on the planet that's making them feel sick. Obviously the radiation, but I didn't know if it was going to be something else.
Yes. So I was like, yeah, well, you know, of course if you're exposed to radiation, you're going to have a headache. So maybe have a look at the console again, Doctor? The main room? The console room. Did you know that the main room is called the console room of the TARDIS?
No.
Well, there you go.
Have they called it that yet?
I don't think so.
Then I don't know. I do now.
Now, one thing I did want to ask you about, the amazing food machine.
Yes.
What do you think?
I think Star Trek may have stolen it from Doctor Who. Which one was first? Obviously Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, yes, Doctor Who has been running longer than Star Trek.
Because obviously it's not a new concept, but maybe it was a newish concept at that time.
I knew right from the get-go that that there's nothing wrong with the TARDIS. You know, when they were like, the Doctor's like, I don't have any mercury.
Well, yeah, see, that's... Okay, when he's like, let's leave, and he ducks and puts his hand under the console, the desk that's in front of him, and pulls something out, I was like, is he messing with it so it won't fly away, or is he actually just doing something to try to make it work, and then he's realising it's not going to work?
No,
you're right.
I think he's sabotaged it. And I think it's really interesting, like, knowing who the Doctor is in, like, modern day.
Yeah.
And this one's just like, I just want to go study this thing. Like, there's no, I'm going to go save someone or do something or just check out. Like, he wants to study these things. So, and he's also willing to put his granddaughter in danger to do that. Because they don't just, like, go to the city. Like, he doesn't go, you guys wait here, I can go get some mercury.
Yeah.
They all go to the city.
They all end up having to go with him because they realise they have to keep him alive if they want to get out of there. But he later confirms to them directly that he did sabotage the ship.
Yeah, he does do that. And then they're like, great, thank you for that. So I put to the point where he endangers others. So that's really interesting to me. I just think at this stage, I don't know what you think, but Ian seems to be the most heroic one out of them. Like, he's kind of the one that's like, you know, we'll get to it later when they're actually in the city.
Yeah. But
where he's like, we have to go save Barbara, and he's like, I just have to go to my TARDIS. And even Barbara is, you know,
willing to explore and try to find a way out or whatever. Yeah,
and he's just like, as soon as he's like, actually this place is dangerous, he just wants out, as opposed to really wanting to do anything there.
Yeah.
So he likes studying things until there's danger. And he's like, I'm out of here.
Now it's time to leave.
Now it's time to leave.
But I will point out, there is another Doctor Who looking at the camera.
Yeah, he does a little like a thought thing.
Because this is when he's just basically forced them to go with him into the city to travel and look for the mercury. And he almost looks at the camera like, I've done it, I've tricked them.
And one thing, and they go outside.
Yes.
And on the ground, there's like a tin box.
Mysterious tin box.
Yeah, mysterious tin box. And when I saw that, I was like, it just looks like a tin box. Like, nothing like, doesn't look futuristic. I guess that's the other thing. We don't know when in time this is. We just know we're on another planet.
And supposedly another time.
So I'm like, oh, it's just a silver box. And then I I knew it would be a problem later when he's like, just put it in the TARDIS. Let's not take this thing with us. He's like, check it out, put it, like, run some tests on it in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And they leave it there.
Good point.
It's like, cool. You don't want to take that thing with you? Just in case?
This thing that you found mysteriously on this planet might relate to what's on this planet.
Barbara has a headache? Maybe this might relate to that.
Did you also... I found it hilarious. Like you said, Ian's the heroic one. I think it's Ian who interacts with the box to try to figure out if it's an explosive.
Yeah,
or
did
something.
you like him covering his face with his hand as if that would protect him from an explosive?
Yes, but did you also like how the rest of the group, he says, stand back. They stand back maybe a meter.
Yeah. And he's like half a meter closer and like poking it with a stick. And also poking it with a stick and then goes, oh, it's safe.
And they're all within a meter and a half or so of it.
Yes.
But they were very safe.
Now I've put, so they start walking to the city. I've put one thing that was predictable and one thing that is definitely they should not have done. Mm-hmm. And one thing that's interesting. So I've got...
This one thing is a lot of things.
I've got 3 things. There's one of each of those.
This one thing is 3 things. Let's go.
Okay, so the first thing is...
Yes?
Surprise, the Doctor is tired again.
Yes.
They get somewhere and he's like, oh, I must rest. And I know that's the radiation, but it's also just like he's just been... Like, that happened last story arc as well. I must rest. And, like, lean on Susan. That's probably why he keeps her around, so he can... When he's feeling weak, he's got, like, something to hold, to lean on.
Do you think that's an analogy for how he survives, is by leaning on Susan?
Ooh. You mean the one that keeps screaming whenever there's danger? I mean, that would tell him that there's danger around.
That's true. She does become more heroic later on.
She does.
From what I've seen so far.
But to me, they have supposedly been travelling in this box already. Like, that's why she's, when she goes to school, she has all this knowledge, because she's been, like, she knows these sciences and things, because she's been in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And yet, when she arrives somewhere new, it's, like, frightening for her. So, I find that interesting. My second thing was, separate. That's a good idea.
Yes. Worst idea ever. But it's nice to know that even though it now happens in very bad horror films today, or even just in TV shows, even 50 years ago, they thought that was a cool plot point.
Yes.
Let's all separate. That won't be bad.
Well, I'll go this way, you go that way, and we'll meet back here in 10 minutes. We'll meet up in 10 minutes. I'm not sure where they were meeting, because when they get to the point where they're going to meet again,
yes,
they're like, oh, we'll wait a couple minutes for Barbara. But Barbara went in a different direction. So how did you know she was going to eventually meet you at that point?
So he didn't say meet back here.
Yeah, but they didn't meet back there. They went through the... Didn't they? They didn't. They were outside.
Yes, and they all went inside through different doors into this house in this city, or the front of this city, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I thought the whole point was they would all come back and meet out the front.
I don't think they made it back out the front, though. I think they were still inside.
What do you mean?
I think they were still inside when they were... When Ian met back up with the Doctor and Susan...
They were back at that point.
Were they back outside?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because then they go, well, she's not here, we better start looking. So then Ian goes back into the door that she started through.
Oh,
to look for
he
her.
did the...
Wave the hand in front of the sensor to open the door.
Which is my third thing.
Yes.
Like movement activated doors, sensors, like that's actually pretty interesting.
Yep.
I don't know if that was a thing in the 60s, waving your hand in front of a door, and like not a door, but like sensors generally. Like, you know how you go to like a bathroom now in the shopping centre and you wave your hand and it spits out soap at you.
Yes.
Not like at you, but into your hands. Like that kind of sensor stuff, I don't think was a thing back then.
No, I don't think it was.
So I was like, oh, someone's thinking about different ways to make it look futuristic.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
And so he waves his hand, he goes looking for Barbara, and we get a brilliant shot of terrified Barbara who's like staggering through the city, and she's like leaning against walls, and she goes down, like she gets trapped in a lift.
Yes.
She goes down the lift. She comes out, and what happens?
Well, as she's moving through the rooms, they keep closing the doors behind her, like that classic thing that you see when someone's being trapped somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then it ends with the picture that you showed me in the last episode.
Yes, that's right.
Her being attacked by the pan.
The pan, was it a pan?
Well, I think now it looks more like a plunger.
Yes.
I think obviously is what it was for the design.
It is technically a plunger. And I think from what I've read about the episode, that was like an assistant, like floor manager or something, who had the plunger and was just like, they had the camera over the shoulder and they just kind of walked towards it. Like, so it wasn't the actual Dalek.
So they hadn't come up with that at that point.
I think they'd come up with the design, but they wanted that. They didn't want to reveal that to the audience yet.
Which is a cool idea.
And so they're like, "Oh, we have to tune in next time to figure out the salt and pepper shaker that's attacking her."
Yes, it's very good. It's actually a good way to end that episode.
Yeah, I think that first episode is very good. I like the story in it. I think sometimes you do look at the sets. And, like, the forest is like, did they just use that forest again from the previous episode?
I actually didn't think about that at the time, but that makes sense.
And also the wibbly-wobbly doors when the TARDIS doors open, you know, the automatic, when they're on the inside and there's two big, with the big roundels on them. They're called roundels, the circles on them.
Excuse me?
They open inwards.
Hang on. What is a roundel?
It's the circle things inside the TARDIS. You know how the walls have all the circles on them?
Yeah, isn't that just like design?
Yeah, they're called roundels though.
What?
Oh, there's our coffee has arrived. Just
Okay.
FYI.
Pause.
Do you want me to go get it, or do you want to go get it?
No, I can get it.
Okay. They might be in the street over. This is actually perfect, because while he's like out there doing that, I can talk about how cool it is that the Daleks become like the main villain in this story, and at the moment these guys just have no idea what's going on. Oh, we got coffee.
Unpause.
We're unpaused.
Okay.
Yes, the lid comes off that. Now no one will know what we're talking about. How good's that?
He's trying to convince me that people enter the TARDIS through the top.
Do you know the bulb on the top needs changing sometimes?
Do you mean on this physical object right here or on the show?
Who knows?
Who?
Doctor.
Doctor Who? Mr.
Mr. Who the man?
Mr. Medicine Man?
You're so annoying. His name's the Doctor. He doesn't.
I have not been told that yet.
He doesn't. I mean, he does refer to himself to Doctor Who as Doctor Who at some point.
Yeah. So I'm not going to be convinced otherwise until I see it in the show.
It's a phrase that you work out if he likes or doesn't like.
Okay, so what you're saying is it's not actually his name. It depends on which Doctor it is at the time.
Well, every Doctor's different.
So
this one's a
Doctor
grumpy old man.
Who calls himself Doctor Who?
Well, the credits call him Doctor Who. We're not getting into this now. We're getting into the next episode.
No, hang on. Wait, no, we ended on a very important point.
Was it the plunger and the...
No. Explain a roundel, please.
Oh, the roundel.
That's ridiculous.
So the roundels are just the round things in the TARDIS.
Yeah, but why are they called that? Does the Doctor...
Although they sometimes... Yeah, he does call them roundels.
Mm-hmm.
He sometimes also, depending on which Doctor, just calls them round things.
That's such a weird word. I don't know why I can't get past it, but a roundel.
Yes, and they can be like cupboards that hide things.
The circles.
The roundels.
Okay.
Sometimes the roundels.
The round things, yep.
You can call them round things, because
Yeah.
the Doctor does end up calling them round things.
Interesting. Well, I haven't seen that yet, so I'm not accepting it until I do. Next episode
ended
with the pan attacking
the plunger,
the plunger.
Which is more of which we will find out is more of like a sucker thing. Well, it's a plunger. I've put the first quote of the next episode, which is Susan saying there's a corridor over here, and I've just put this whole place is just corridors.
Yeah. So she's not wrong.
She's not wrong, but
it's not distinct.
It's not. Yeah. So Ian questions. So this is okay. This is where we start to get to like a bit more of like the Doctor's development as a character.
Yes.
I'm pausing for a drink of coffee because this is going to take a while.
Pause. Unpause.
We're going to leave all that in.
That's awful.
This whole place, is just corridors. Ian questions how the city that they're in, how the inhabitants use their intelligence.
Mm-hmm. And
so the Doctor's like, I want to figure out, what's going on here, how the city is here, even though it's a dead planet.
Yes.
And the Doctor is like very dismissive of that. Like he just wants to know how they're smart, and Ian wants to know how they use that smartness.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I thought that was really interesting. Like that this Doctor is just like doesn't really seem to care if they use it for good or ill. He's just like, oh, this place is interesting. And when Ian's like, these people, there's obviously intelligence here, but are they good or evil?
Yeah.
So I kind of like that.
Well, it's like the difference or the battle between what's just pure knowledge and what's actually practical.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Ian's obviously very practical, whereas the Doctor wants to just learn for the sake of learning, it seems.
And Ian, so they have a bit of, they find somewhere where there's like research equipment, and the Doctor realizes, oh hey, radiations actually is a problem here, and admits that they don't need the mercury.
Yes. He did sabotage them flying away.
Yes, he did. So
or evaporating, whatever it is that they do.
And now I don't think he feels that much guilt because, he's essentially led his granddaughter, supposed granddaughter,
I still don't think she is,
into a place where she now is going to have radiation sickness.
Yes.
You want to show some?
Well, he didn't know that at the time when he was sabotaging the ship.
Yeah.
But he is kind of led them to their deaths. So.
Yes. Maybe.
Ooh, Dr. Death, more like it.
Whoa, okay. Also, so they figure out it's radiation, and he gives Ian the part that's like, see, I don't need any mercury, and Ian keeps it, and he kind of like forces the Doctor to have to go look for Barbara.
Yes.
So there's that force of like, you've brought us here, and it's your responsibility to look after us.
Yeah.
So that's something that the Doctor definitely will have later, but he doesn't care at the moment. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what I mean. The people listening, I hope, know what I mean. But like the Doctor has obviously, because the show's been going so long, he's had many different companions.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't care about his companions at this point, and one of them is forcing him to have to care.
Yes.
So I think that's really like some more character development that's quite interesting.
So wait, when you talk about character development with the Doctor, are they not actually? Well, maybe you can't answer this because it's going to be explained in the show. Ooh. But is it one person who develops over time, or is it different people inhabiting whatever it is to be the Doctor?
I don't think that's okay. Without giving anything away,
yes,
he is the same person.
Okay.
Or she.
Okay. 2021, yes.
But their personality just changes.
Okay. Oh, but what you're saying is outside of whatever their personality might be, he progressively learns to care about people.
Yeah. So, for example...
Yes, go on.
I'll give you a different Time Lord as an example. Okay. There's a Time Lord called the 11.
I also haven't heard the phrase Time Lord in the show yet, so I won't accept it, but go on.
There's a different Time Lord called the 11.
Okay.
Okay, and every time he regenerates, his previous personalities stay in his head along with the new one.
Okay.
And so when he hits his 8th one, so he's the 1, then the 2, then the 3, then the 4, then the 5, then the 6, and the 7. And when he hits 8, even though he's a villain, he becomes good for that incarnation, because he can remember everything he's done, but that personality goes, why am I doing this? Should I be evil? So you know what I mean? Like,
interesting.
There is character development that then one of their personalities might call upon to, be a bit different.
I have 2 things to ask. Well, to note.
Yep.
The first one is that I have not yet seen anyone who is also the same
species
or creature or whatever it is as the Doctor.
Not Susan?
Well, I don't think she's the granddaughter, but anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I'm not accepting the phrase Time Lord until it's in the show. That's I'm just going with that. Second, can that also happen to the Doctor? Can he suddenly become
evil? One
of the Doctors who's evil? Yeah, one of the versions of himself who becomes evil.
Oh, maybe we'll get to that.
Oh, okay. Well, let's move on then.
Right. So I put 4 minutes 50 seconds. The Daleks are seen in full for the first time.
Yes.
I was majorly excited.
I can imagine.
I have seen this. I've watched this story arc before, but when they're first on screen, and it's like Ian and like the Doctor's like hugging Susan to be like, it's going to be okay or whatever, and like zooms out, and there's like 4 of the Daleks, and they're like their plunger arm is just like moving up and down a little bit, and their lights start flashing for the first time, and they start talking, and their voice sounds really similar to the modern day ones, so they've obviously kept that really the same the whole way through.
That classic robotic voice.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's them. And it will become, because they obviously become his arch nemesis.
Right. I know at least that much from what I've seen.
Yeah, I thought you would know that much.
Yeah.
But like that this is where it started from, and they don't know who each other is yet.
Yeah.
So they don't realise who he will become to them, and vice versa. And their first little conversation is just like, follow us. Like, it's not like... Because they obviously haven't met before, and...
There's no conflict there.
There's no conflict there. So I think that's really interesting. And also, when they do get taken to their cell, we'll talk about Ian in a second because something happens to him.
Yep.
But when they do get taken to the cell, Barbara mentions that there's no furniture.
I didn't notice that.
So there's no furniture in their city. It's just these things.
Right.
And so as we go through the next few episodes, you go, oh, okay, so like, have they never needed furniture? What's like going on here? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I know it's such a small thing, but you're just like, oh.
Well, I mean, the obvious thing for me when I looked at the Dalek and what it was, is you think, is there someone inside it, or is this what the actual thing is? I don't know, just because the whole thing of like there being a camera on the outside, almost like there's someone inside looking out.
Around. And then the thing that does happen to Ian is that he gets shot by a Dalek.
For trying to run away. By the way, just took his time. Made it really suspicious, just stood there like looking around. And they just waited for him to run basically. And then their gun thing shot. Like they had a little... I don't know. They made the screen go all like inverted colours, and to symbolise that he's been shot, and he just falls to the ground. One of the this isn't giving away anything, but one of the few times that someone gets shot by a Dalek and doesn't immediately die. Interesting. So, okay,
maybe they're not just at that point yet, but they paralyse him.
Yeah,
his legs anyway.
And they tell him it's temporary.
Yeah.
So it's not like...
Well, that's nice of them to let him know
he's
that.
Suddenly paralysed forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they get to the cell. They catch up with Bara. Now I've got the Doctor is affected by radiation. So even though like he's an alien from another place, he's just as affected, or if not more so, because he's basically an old man in this regeneration.
Yeah, it hit him pretty hard.
Yeah, so he's like needs to lie down. Oh, they don't have any furniture, so he's just on a block.
That's right, inside the cell.
They did find a block for him, apparently. And the Daleks are kind of like trying to work out who these people are, because they're like, who are these randos? And so they say that they must be Thals.
Yes.
So we're going to get to them later. But they're quite a major race in Doctor Who lore as well, because obviously there was some kind of war, and those are your two sides, and so
that's kind of what's led to the nuclear fallout or whatever it is that's made the planet dead.
Probably something we should have mentioned earlier. The Doctor finds out that there was like a neutron bomb that just like wiped out most of the living stuff on the planet.
But it doesn't
I don't think they
destroy
mentioned
buildings.
Did they mention the name of the planet yet?
No, I don't know the name of the planet.
I know the name of the planet. But we'll just sit on that. We'll just leave that alone. That planet comes up a lot, obviously.
It's not going to be a twist where it's Earth in the future, is it?
Do you want me to break that to you now?
No.
Okay.
I'm just making a joke because I didn't actually expect it. So if it does happen, that's a weird prediction. But let's proceed. Don't give me that look. I don't know what that means. So that's why the planets are dead. Because these two races were having a war. Mm-hmm. There was a neutron bomb.
Yeah.
Killed almost all civilization. But they specifically say it doesn't destroy buildings or anything else.
No, it's just the organic matter.
Yes.
So the city was fine, but there's all this radiation fallout.
Yeah.
And so obviously that wiped out a lot of both sides. Mm-hmm. And so the Daleks think that the Doctor and his crew must have some medication that stops them from dying from the radiation, even though the four of them look sick from radiation poisoning.
Well, they say, why did the drug stop working?
That's right. Yeah.
But the Daleks also say that they say something about not knowing whether any Thal exist. So I think that's why they take these people prisoners, because they're shocked that they could even be alive.
And if I was watching this for the first time,
yes,
that I feel like that would be very interesting, because that makes you think that they think that there's only mutants on the surface, right? So they're deep underground under their buildings at this point.
Yep.
And they think there's mutants on the surface. So that would have made me think, well, what's happened to them?
Yes.
Because if they think there's mutants up there, and their only point of reference is what's happened to them, you know what I mean? Makes me go, ooh.
Well, that's the point brought up by Ian, I think, later. No, we're skipping ahead. That happens in the next episode with a character we haven't met yet.
Ooh, oh yeah. Look, there's plenty of characters in the next episode that I don't like.
That you don't like?
I don't like.
I don't even know why, so you must know more than I do in terms of... Well, obviously you do, but I'm looking at this with fresh eyes, and
I am the fan.
I don't see why there's characters you don't like yet, so...
So... The Doctor has his first, I thought this was interesting. Mm-hmm. You might not find it interesting, but the Doctor has his first, one-on-one with the Daleks.
Yes.
So they're trying to figure out what's going on here. And one of the things he says is that, they need to get back to the TARDIS, because that's where they've got the drugs.
Yep.
So he's trying to negotiate letting one of them go to go get it. But they don't have an idea what a TARDIS is. They're like, he's gone delirious. They're like, he's just saying random stuff. So they have no concept
of who he is.
Or who he is, the culture he's come from, how he's got there. They obviously don't know really much about time travel. They have none of that. They just they've got no knowledge of out of their planet, which I was like, that's really interesting. That at this point, they look like how they will look for the next 50 years, or 60 years, whatever up to. But at that point, they're just like, whatevs to this word TARDIS. Yeah. And you, without that foreknowledge, probably doesn't mean much, but I was like, oh my gosh.
It's a big deal because of, I guess, what happens in the future.
So yeah, I'm just going to have that moment with myself then. Why isn't this show called The Fan and the Fan? Because I don't have any friends who like Doctor Who.
What do you... Well, I don't know anything about it. That's the whole point.
I know.
And the whole point is whether or not you and the show itself sells itself to me. I'm not sold yet.
Well, I suppose when we get to like the 4th, 5th or 6th Doctor and we're still talking about the Daleks, whether all this stuff, this continuity works and you go, oh, I remember that from that bit. You know what I mean?
Because the whole point is, I've never watched any of the new stuff, nothing.
And I'm coming from the other way.
Yeah.
You know, like I keep getting excited about things that are from the future that you haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
I've got an interesting point. Susan is not as affected by radiation as the others.
And she mentions that specifically.
Yeah. And she can run off and be while the others are basically dying. I'm not sure if that's what's going on there. I feel like young people would still get pretty poorly affected by radiation.
I don't know what the significance is of that, unless it's coming up.
But she does talk about why Ian can't go to the TARDIS by himself. And it's like, I didn't know about the TARDIS. I must have forgotten it since watching this episode. Is the melting lock mechanism.
Yes.
She was like, there's 26 different locks or something.
Yeah.
And so if you put the key in the wrong way, the whole thing melts and you can't get inside. Which, by the way, that's very annoying because it's like one of those Apple password situations where if you type your password in wrong, you have to like reset your password completely. Mm-hmm. Except then, imagine if you just couldn't access your account anymore at all.
Or your entire way of life and travel and where you live.
Oh, I'm trapped in a weird planet
with radiation.
With radiation, and I can't. There's no way home.
But the whole point is, the Daleks tell them one of you has to go back to the TARDIS and get these drugs for us that you found. So that
we can work out how they survive up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is what you were talking about earlier. Susan kind of is then forced to be brave.
Yeah.
So she goes from being like just someone who's... She's still... I wrote a note here. I said, I wonder if Carol Ann Ford, who's the actress who plays Susan, got sick of constantly looking frightened. Like, because even when she's like running through the forest, and they do all those close-ups of her face with like leaves brushing against her or whatever.
It was one of those things where... You know, on a show where they make fun of the past and you see the person running in spot and they're like...
It's just... So she's obviously just running on the spot and there's like stuff moving around her.
People throwing trees or something at her.
Or like a fan making her hair go backwards.
It looked hilarious.
And she just looks scared the whole time. And I know she's like overcoming her fear because she has to go through this dark forest back to the TARDIS, but I was like, alright.
That must be annoying. I just want to make one quick point because we... skipped a little bit.
You always stop me because I'll just keep talking.
The thing that we said about the actor playing Doctor Whodunit,
William Hartnell, yep,
and him getting his lines mixed up. Do you remember what was said when all four of them were trapped as prisoners by the Daleks, and he's explaining to them his conversation with them and how they need to go back for the radiation drugs?
Okay.
He first says radiation gloves, and then quickly says, drugs.
Yes.
And if you look at the expression on the other actors' faces...
It's just of like, here we go again.
Well, you can't tell if they're like, what do you mean because it's scripted, or like, that's not what you're supposed to have said as an actor. There's
a lot of... I don't want to be mean because like William Hartnell becomes quite beloved in that crew. Mm-hmm. And he loves being the Doctor. But...
Mr. Medicine Man.
There's a lot of times where he doesn't want to say all the lines because there's a lot, or he doesn't want to do another take, or the director's just like, that will do. Because they're at that point, obviously they don't have a lot of money, and I'm going to come to money I'm going to get to money.
Hey, it can't all be about money.
But they don't want to, like, they have to then refilm it and reshoot it, and that takes longer. And
it wasn't the same technology as today where you can just film as much as you want.
It'd be like if you record all these episodes and then you're going to make new ones, so you just taped over the old ones.
Yeah. What show would do that and lose, like, an important historical part of what makes them what they are?
That's the other thing. A lot of these first two I don't think suffered from this because they're the first, so I think they kept them.
Yeah.
But a lot of these episodes that we watch are because fans somewhere on the planet, I think there was someone in New Zealand who had a heap of them, have just recorded it from TV on VHS.
Right.
And then they've been remastered. So
can you tell which ones? Like, is there anything to say, or can you tell from
I think it's just from the quality.
Right.
Like, you can tell that it's
not the original master copy.
Yeah. But they do a pretty good job of remastering it so it just looks... And then, of course, some of them, they have all the audio, but they've completely lost the video. So we'll get to some episodes where they've filled them in with animated sections to kind of...
Interesting.
So, yeah.
We have all that ahead of us.
All that ahead of us. So...
Susan returns to the ship.
She grabs the medicine. She has a moment where she remembers Ian saying, go there, comes right back. She goes outside and she meets... I think I wrote down his name somewhere. Is it Aladdin?
Yes.
Aladdin. So she meets Aladdin and, he tells her that he's the one that tapped her on the shoulder earlier and scared her, and he was like, I was so careless, I'm sorry, like, I should have, like, properly introduced myself.
He seems like a nice dude compared to what you expected from her screaming earlier.
Oh, yeah. And I thought it was really funny how when she describes him, she's like, he's not mutated, he's perfect. You're like, alright, he's up. He's just a normal person.
Handsome fella.
Well, I'm not saying he's not handsome. I'm just saying that, he isn't a mutant, correct, but you met him for like 2 seconds. And she's already like head over heels for him. He gives her another pack of the drugs.
Yes, a second lot.
Because he's like, you're going to go back, and the Daleks want this, so take 2 and give them 1. And I thought it was really funny that she gets back and they figure out that she's got 2 on her. Immediately. After
this, Alcon tells her, hide the second lot.
Yeah, hide the second lot. So the Daleks, but they let her keep it, so they're going to keep them alive because obviously they want to know where they've come from, what's going on.
So she didn't need it anyway.
No.
Don't they need it? Is that not what I thought was the point?
The Daleks?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they kept one.
Oh, so they did keep it?
Well, I assume so. They didn't let her keep both.
I thought she said, I've got them here, they're not interested in them. Maybe I missed that.
Oh, no, maybe you didn't miss it. Maybe I missed it. But the Daleks, I guess they seem to have figured out how to survive. So do they even need it? They want to know how the Thals survived, though. I think they took one and let her keep one.
You're probably right. That makes more sense.
While this is all happening, the Thals all come out of the forest, because they're wondering, oh, was it at that point? Maybe it's later on. I think it might be later on when they get the letter from Susan. That's later.
Later.
Do they come out first? Do you see them before they get the letter?
They
do come out. They do come out,
and they meet around the
TARDIS. Yeah,
I was going to say postbox, which is not only not what it's called, but not what the picture is. It's a police box. Yes, I see that.
Police box. There's a picture. There's a 3D image here, right in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought their culture bit weird.
Very weird.
Bit weird.
I mean, not that the Daleks are normal, but for people who look normal.
Yeah.
Or look like normal people. weird.
Yeah, and I thought it kind of gives you that sense of maybe they're not that great either. Like, maybe both of these sides have problems.
Well, they don't treat their women very nicely.
No, they were
That's a
basically
start.
like, "Oh, are you?" What is she? She says, "I have no opinion on the matter." They talk about whether they should later on. This might be later on, but they talk about whether they should go into the city and try and like negotiate peace with the Daleks because they've had a war with them for hundreds of years, and they're like, "Oh, we're running out of food, and they're trapped in that city. Maybe we can like work together or something." They haven't really seen a Dalek yet,
Right.
Because it's been a long time has passed, and they're like, the guy in charge, I can't remember his name. We've got a list of names, but the guy in charge of the Thals, he's like, he says to one of the women, "What do you think?" And she says, "I have no opinion on the matter." And another one, the guy says, "That would be a first," like as in. Like, oh, that's a surprise. Or something, like, as in, why would, why aren't you sharing your opinion with us? Like, it's just,
I thought he was saying, wow, that'd be the first time she had a thought about something or an opinion about something.
Oh, yes. Oh, it could have been that. That sounds much more rude.
Well, that's what I thought. Well, either way, it's rude, but that's what I thought they were saying was, why do we care what she thinks? And she has no opinions.
Yeah. And even later on, when they talk about who Susan is, she's older than a girl, but not old enough to be a woman. And then there's like a bit of jealousy or something going on there. Like, I don't know. It seems like a very what would you call it?
Tense people.
Yeah, and very thin-skinned. Like,
For sure.
They're very sensitive. So let's go back. So they're in the cell. Susan tells them everything. The Daleks are watching. They're like, "We love this." This show about these four people. They're just watching on their screens.
It's like Big Brother.
They're just listening to everything. So I thought it was interesting that Susan just tells them everything. Surely they know they're being watched, but hey, whatever. And so the Daleks come in. They're like, "We're taking her with us." They bring in food, by the way, which I thought was really funny, the way that the Dalek was carrying the food on the tray.
Like a waiter.
Yeah. So, which like, they do use that to pick up stuff and like hold stuff like that, but the way it was like stuck, the tray was stuck on, and they took the food off the top, and then it just kind of dropped its arm down. Did you see, like, and the tray's just like flopping on the side, and then the Dalek's like, "That one, it's coming with us."
Yeah.
So they take Susan, and she's just writing with a pen and paper, like everything that the Daleks are saying. She's like, they're like, "and vegetables," and she's just like writing that in, like
they're writing a note to the Thal people, but obviously they can't write because all they've got is a plunger and a waiter hand and whatever. So they're telling her what.
I think the plunger and the waiter hand are the same hand.
Okay,
they got that, and they've got a gun thing.
True,
they got a gun
that's
stick.
What the two things are. The two important things you need: a plunger and a gun.
Yes.
Yeah. They're making her write the letter.
Surely they can write. Or maybe because they don't communicate through writing like that. They probably use computers. Because they need her to write to them, I guess. Because they would send when they're talking to each other, I presume they would use their machines.
Yes.
Because they stick their plungers on those round things on the wall.
Roundels?
They're not roundels.
Oh, okay.
They're just round, like, controls.
Okay.
To use them. But yeah. So Susan is writing the note. She signs it with her name, Susan, which is apparently the Daleks don't understand names.
Yeah.
Are they just all called? Well, I guess this is an origin of another thing, where the Daleks are just called Daleks. Like, they don't have individual names.
Right, okay.
So, pretty cool.
So what you're saying is this is potentially another idea that Star Trek has stolen with the Borg.
I don't know Star Trek.
They probably have their own names, but the whole idea is that they're just like this one mass
entity.
This one mass entity, yeah.
Yeah, so the Daleks, generally, they don't have names. They have ranks, though. So we'll get to that.
Also, I don't know that yet, so I don't accept it.
Okay. I think it was also interesting that when Susan's gone. So they sent Susan on her way, and
they sent her to
the Thals with this note to negotiate peace.
Yep.
Or whatever. But they're not really interested in peace.
No, you get the impression that it's some sort of a setup, or maybe they just want to see what's
going on up there.
Or even what they look like, because they keep calling them mutants, and we know that they're not.
No, we know that they're perfect.
Apparently. Cool coats, though.
Cool, yeah. Oh, yeah, he gives her a cloak.
To keep warm.
Is it Aladdin gives Susan a cloak, and that comes into play later.
Yes.
So they don't send her away to give them the note. The note's put at like the edge of the city. She's just written the note for them.
Yes.
Yes.
She wanted to take it back, but they said no.
So if you were in the middle of writing a comment on this podcast, I was like, you weren't listening to the story. I've just corrected myself. Okay. So Susan goes back to the cell. They talk about what they're going to do once they meet the Thals. This is the Daleks. They're like, what should we do with these prisoners? And they just say, there's a line at 14 minutes, 30 seconds in the last episode where you're going to exterminate them. We'll just exterminate them. And then I was like, that's
classic Dalek.
It's classic Dalek. Talking about extermination. So they have become really like, already now that you can see like they don't really care about anyone else.
Yeah.
They just do what they have to do to survive.
Yeah.
I guess, and figure out what's going on. Now the Doctor figures out, well, the four of them really figure it out, that why the Daleks don't get out of the city, and how they move, and how do they do it? How do they keep powered up?
Kinetic energy.
Static electricity.
Static electricity, that's what I said.
So they compare it to
Well,
dodgements.
hang on. The reason I say that is because that's one of the things that they think it could be. So...
But kinetic energy is moving energy.
Yeah, that was wrong, but that was one of their theories.
Static electricity.
Is the thing. But, see, before this, they work out that they're being listened to by the Daleks and being watched. Because when one of them comes into the cell to bring food, he mentions something about... We're negotiating with the Thal people.
Yes,
this is what you want, isn't it?
True.
And they say, how do you know that? Because obviously that was their private conversation in the cell.
And they realise it must be that camera that's on the wall there.
Yeah, who would have thought?
But I guess you might not think it has a microphone in it. Maybe it's just a camera. But now they know they're listening.
They've been listening into.
So they do like a fake fight.
Yes.
They have an argument about, I think Ian even... I'm surprised the Daleks didn't pick up on it, because Ian says... like it cuts from the Dalek... Like, the show cuts from the Daleks to back in the cell, and Ian says, are you right? Like, are you ready, Doctor? Like, he says it, and then they have their argument. You remember that?
Yes.
They have their argument, and then Susan jumps on Ian, and, like, they fake fight, and then Susan, like, grabs the camera and just, like, rips it out of the wall.
Removes it completely.
Yeah. Which I thought was interesting, because later, the Daleks are like, was that an accident? And they're like, oh no, because the wiring from the wall is too strong. So Susan has like just ripped this thing out of the wall.
And they know that she's done it on purpose.
They know that she's done it on purpose. And so then they come up with their plan.
Secretly now, because they can't be listened to.
They can't be listened to. And they're like, we'll distract them. And I actually thought, this is quite a good, like, they're all kind of contributing to this plan. Because, they're trying to work out how to, distract the Dalek and how to stop it from being able to see, and then how to, like, for it to not have its power anymore.
Yeah.
So Ian's going to distract the Dalek with the Doctor. And Barbara's going to throw, like, mud at it.
Which she created from water they've been given and dirt off Susan's shoe.
Yeah, which is clever.
Mm-hmm.
And then Susan has the cloak. So she puts it on the ground so that, hopefully with it all distracted, they can stop it from getting its power from the floor.
by putting the cloak underneath it and separating it from the floor.
Yeah. So, it's a good team.
It's a good team.
With, two that don't really want to be there at all.
And Ian used as part of the camera, he slips it under the door that
to
opens and closes.
Yes, and so then when the Dalek's like, what's going on here? And comes back in.
Yeah.
And so Mud goes on. They have a tussle with. This
was hilarious.
I thought it was funny because, look,
such a badly staged fight.
Well, yeah, because I guess there's even the modern day Dalek, the shape thing, the design.
Yes.
Someone has to be inside that to move it around. So I just wonder if there was someone in there, or if when they shot that, there was no one in it, and it was just William Hartnell and I think William Russell, that's the Doctor and Ian, just wrestling with an inanimate object. So
probably would have made it lighter to be able to do that too if no one's in there.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's true.
And you just have the Dalek screaming, is it leave me alone, about 50 times while they're attacking him? That was a hilarious thing to watch.
Yes. I even thought it was funny when the previous time I walked in, the door opened and it just kind of stuck its head in, the eye stalk thing in, and was move away from the door. It knew that the two of them were there.
Yeah.
So, they just don't seem that scary yet.
No.
But
I will say, I get why at the time when it first came out, they would have been really creepy.
Oh, yeah.
When there's not all this lore that's built up about them now.
Yeah, I even think there's a line in there earlier when Barbara talks about, are they machines or are they living things?
Yeah.
And I think that would have freaked people out to be well, they look like robots, but is there something living inside it? You know what I mean?
Is it conscious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought, that's a good seed to plant at that point in this story arc.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you think the plan was always for the Daleks to become the main villain of the show? Or do you think this was just a thing they made and all of a sudden they realised?
Probably that.
The second one?
Yeah, probably. Because this is the second story, right? So they probably haven't thought if they're going to have a recurring villain. You know what I mean?
It's not even a thought yet.
No. And this is still in the first, production phase. They were only commissioned, I think, to do 13 episodes initially.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't even know if they're going to make it past episode 13 because they haven't been renewed for that. So, they haven't thought about that at all.
Right.
And so probably once they do get renewed, they probably go, well, these things were popular, we'll bring them back.
So that you reckon that's what it was based on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you want people to keep watching. And also there's probably enough mystery there because we haven't seen that war, So there's enough mystery to go, well, we can return to this. Unless we find out more about the war in the next episode.
I don't know.
I do know. I thought... So they tussle with it. They get it on the cloak. It can't move anymore.
Lost its power.
They open it up. And then there's another thing that I think would make them even more scary.
Mm-hmm.
So Ian and the Doctor look into the Dalek. And then they go... They're like, oh, there's something gross in there. Or something scary in there. So they send Barbara and Susan out to look out.
Yeah.
Which I think is just a way to get them out of the room.
Yes.
Because...
For their own sake.
Yeah. Because they wouldn't be able to handle it, apparently. But then they use the cloak to pull out something.
Yeah.
From inside the Dalek casing. And put it over against the wall. Where it definitely can't cause any harm. And Ian then climbs into the Dalek
machine thing or whatever it is, the casing.
Yeah. How good was that?
It was not what I was expecting at all.
I just love how they're also just he's I don't it it's funny how when they close the lid and he starts talking, it turns into electronic voice immediately.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then he but he can't get it to move. He doesn't know how to get it to walk. So I think this, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but the way the episode then ends is the Dalek Ian who's in the Dalek case, because as we've learned now, there was something else in the case. So he's in the case. He doesn't know how to move, so he's pretending to take Susan and Barbara as hostages somewhere.
Yeah.
And the Doctor is just following behind, pushing him along.
Yes, that's the plan.
So I wonder how that plan will go.
Yes. I'm surprised because once it was back off of the cloak, once the actual Dalek machine was on the floor again, why is it not suddenly powered?
Yeah. Well, maybe it's probably more he doesn't know how it works.
That's what it must be. Because the creature's obviously no longer in the machine, and that's the one that knows how to use it. So
yeah,
I get that.
Great. So we'll get into the next episode.
But that's not how it ends. It then ends with a shot back on the cloak inside the cell.
Oh,
and you see a hand. You see a hand suddenly move and pop out from under the cloak, and it looks like a claw or something from some sort of ugly creature, and that's how it ends.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever was in the Dalek is a mutant. That's the thing.
But mutant, isn't that mutant just a Dalek?
Well, see, this is the thing. This is where Ian said it makes you wonder if these Daleks were worried about the mutants on the surface. What do they look like? And now we kind of know. Well, not what I saw, but I don't know the whole picture yet. So,
I meant the ones on the surface.
Huh?
The ones on the surface.
Oh, because they're perfect.
Yeah, they're perfect.
But yeah, so is the Dalek the machine or the creature inside the machine?
Am I answering for you, or you just want to know? Okay.
I think that's the whole point. Is it ends with that question?
Yes. Now, would you like for like some fun facts?
Once again, give me the facts. I'll determine if they are fun.
And then we'll do our rating at the end.
And my predictions.
And your predictions. I've got a photo for you as well.
Oh.
About from the next episode.
Yes.
I did have a different one that I was going to put up, but it gives away too much. So I've picked one that I think gives you just enough without telling you anything.
Good. I want to know nothing. I am the fool.
Well, this one tells you nothing.
I'm the fool. I want to know nothing.
Okay. So the round things on the Daleks.
The roundels?
No, you know how the Daleks have the case. I'll put a picture up for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
Don't look at that one. Don't look at that one either. That.
I got my eyes closed. I honestly didn't.
Open.
Oh,
so
on the Dalek.
That's
yes.
the current. That's what the Daleks look like in that episode in color.
Yep.
So you saw them in black and white. Technology at the time, perfect. You know.
But that's what
they look like. So the orbs were blue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the original design was that those orbs, the orbs that are down there, also lit up when the Daleks spoke.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would have been very bright.
It would have been. But they figured out that to do that, they'd have to put a car battery in the bottom of it to power it. And the reason they didn't do it is because the car batteries were too expensive.
Wow. So they just went with the lights on the top.
Just went with the lights on the top. And I'm going to tell you what those lights are made out of in a minute.
Light bulbs.
So I'm just going to leave it there. So the actual colour scheme of the Dalek was silver with grey trimmings, the blue orbs. The lights on the top were actually leftover Christmas tree lights, covered in ping pong balls. So there's one ping pong ball on each side. Yes.
Wow.
And the actor inside, this is why sometimes when they speak, the lights don't quite match up.
The exact timing.
Yes. So someone off screen was recording, and the actor inside the Dalek operated the lights.
Oh, okay.
So the actor inside would like try and time the lights turn on with the speech that was happening outside.
Almost like what a ventriloquist does to try to make what's being said match up with the movement. Yes,
if the ventriloquist was just talking and someone else was operating the puppet.
So not like a ventriloquist at all.
It's a little over 4 feet tall.
It looked taller than that because I thought it was the same height as them.
No, I think
maybe I didn't see it properly.
I
believe you. I'm just saying that I didn't even realise that at the time.
This design was specifically chosen because out of all the other ones that they were drawing, it was the cheapest.
Wow.
So some of the designs actually had the top bit. Was it actually a creature?
Mm-hmm.
And some that like you could actually see more inside it. But this design allowed them just to put an actor inside and just walk around. So they just went with that.
That makes sense.
Karen Lan Ford, the actress who plays Susan, was surprised that the episode did so well.
Really?
Because she was like, she said every time the plunger thing, like came near her or touched her, she couldn't help but just laugh.
Well, I get that. Even then, that was funny.
Now, speaking of the like how famous these things are, I wanted to give you some ratings because this is interesting as well.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to start with An Unearthly Child, the first story arc we watched.
Yep, last episode.
Yep. So that had 4 episodes in it. So the first episode was 4.4 million. The second one was 5.9 million. These are viewers in the UK.
Yep.
Mainly. Episode 3, 6.9 million. Episode 4, 6.4 million.
Okay.
Now, this story arc, 7 million, 6.5 million. The last episode we watched got 9 million views. So it just jumped. And it keeps going up. So the next 4 episodes we watch, it just goes up.
So people really connected with the storyline of the Daleks.
Yeah. So their viewership, since episode 1 to now, doubled.
Right.
So people are jumping on board. So I thought that was interesting.
It is.
Okay, so do we want to save our rating of this arc until we finish the other 4 episodes?
I think that's a good idea. I think we should do it arc at a time. Because you're kind of rating the whole story.
Yeah.
You know, because if it dips in the middle, that should be reflected in the overall thing. I know we're taking this very seriously, but I'm just saying.
No, that's what I'm just,
Unless you
people want us to take it seriously.
What about this? This is the other option. What if we
have a preliminary score, and then a final score?
It's almost like when you hand in a draft assignment at school. This is what it is now, but it could be better. Except we're just rating it, and it could be worse.
Yeah, I actually found... I didn't find the first episode of this arc that interesting.
I agree.
It wasn't until... It wasn't until they were all captured together with the Daleks that I was like, oh, well, there's these threads are starting to appear of, different mysteries between these two races.
That's what I liked. I don't necessarily like the idea of the Thal people. They kind of seem just like a annoying group
snobby
of people.
They seem like a snobby group of people.
But this whole storyline and the backstory of this nuclear war and the friction between the two races, I think, is really interesting.
Yeah, and where they've come from to where they are now. So, the Thals said they used to be warriors and now they're farmers.
Yeah.
And the Daleks were, all about science. And now they're wondering if the Daleks have now become warriors. It's flipped a little bit.
Yeah. Both out of the need to survive.
Yeah. Yes. I won't say anything else because something else. So I'm thinking of something and I want to say it.
No.
I can't say it.
No.
I won't.
Good.
Now, do you want to see... I found a picture But yeah, I've decided, by the way, this box here.
Yes, the
Every
police
episode,
box.
I'm just going to put like a Doctor Who theme on the desk. Doctor Who themed thing on the desk.
Excellent.
Okay, so this is just a TARDIS. Who knows what will come next?
Ooh.
And if it's like you don't recognise, you can just be like, "Oh,"
and explain what is this. Before you show me are you going to show me an image for the next episode?
Yeah.
I think we should wrap with that before we do,
I did the rating. I didn't rate it.
or the prediction.
Okay, so, well, I thought you got the prediction from the photo.
Nope.
Okay, so my rating, my like draft
I
rating.
haven't given a prediction yet. What did you think I said?
I thought we did the rating first and then the prediction.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
We were talking about a rating.
You made it sound like I'd already... You said you've seen the image and you predicted something, and I'm saying no. Okay, let's rate. Let's move on, friend. We're friends.
I'm going to say, at the moment, not as interesting as the previous arc.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give it 7 Doctors out of 13, but it could improve.
Interesting.
Mm.
I was going to say a 6 or a 7, but I think once they started to introduce the storyline of the two races going to war, that picked it up a bit more for me, so I'm going to give it an 8 Doctors.
Ooh, a Paul McGann.
Okay. I think that's what I rated the overall arc last time.
Yeah.
And I think this could be better, but right now it's about the same, because I did like the first story arc.
Yes, me too.
I thought that was pretty cool. A good way to start the show. So what's 7 then? Which Doctor is that?
Sylvester McCoy.
That sounds like a character's name.
Do you want to see a
Doesn't
photo of
sound
him?
No, I want to wait. I want to be surprised, but it sounds like a character name, Sylvester McCoy.
Yeah, no, he's a cool guy. He's
Okay.
also an actor in The Hobbit. No, is it it's The Hobbit. He's a wizard, I think. I haven't seen The Hobbit.
You're a wizard, Harry? Is that what they say?
No,
in
that's
The Hobbit?
that's Harry Potter.
Up and away.
Which one's Up and Away?
I don't even know. I'm just saying things to annoy you now. Beam me up, Scotty.
Up and Away sounds like an
Beam me up, Harry.
Inspector Gadget thing.
Beam me up, Ian.
Ian?
From this show.
Oh, good. So speaking of this show,
Yes.
next episodes.
Wait. Can I make a prediction before we skip to the next episode?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
This is you making the prediction.
Okay, go ahead.
So next episode, what's going to happen?
Okay, so...
Here's your time to make your prediction. I was getting to that.
You set that up so lovingly. Thank you. Now,
Coffee.
I'm still holding on to what I said last time, in general, which is that she's not the granddaughter, but she thinks she is, because that's easier for Mr. Whodunit
Oh, you're
to
just
say.
making wild future predictions.
Well, it could happen soon, but I think we find out that she's not his granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
But I think whatever happens over the next few episodes of this story arc, they find a way to leave the planet,
Yep.
the crew, okay, and escape. But in doing so, they somehow make it so that the Daleks are now able to also freely travel.
Ooh.
So in actually escaping, Doctor Whodunit, Mr. Medicine Man, Doctor Who, doesn't realise he's just set the course of his future for 50 years of fighting with these insane creatures.
Yeah.
That's my prediction, is that they would have been stuck where they are because of their fear of the radiation and the mutants. But in whatever they did to clear up the situation, he's now set up himself a villain for the rest of time.
What an interesting prediction.
Thanks. I know you can't say anything,
I'm not giving you anything.
but I swear, if that's what happens, I've just guessed that.
Well, I think you're wrong and that they'll be forever trapped in that city.
Oh, I guess we'll have to find out.
Now, here's your photo for the next episode.
I'm ready. The ambush.
No, that's not it. This one. I picked this one. Now, what is it?
It's a Dalek using the plunger on a button on a wall. It looks like a console. That's all I can see. This is way... I just want to say, I'm a bit disappointed because this is way less interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Do you want to see the one that I was going to give you?
Not if it's going to give anything away.
It might.
Then no.
I think it's just difficult to do one in the middle of the story arc.
Yeah, of course. That's difficult.
But that's fine. So next time...
But thank you for the boring pictures.
No
Great.
problem. It's just got a bunch of X's and a couple of stars on it as well.
Okay.
Next 4 episodes will be the end of the Daleks.
The end of them forever.
No, as in the end of the Daleks,
Oh,
as in the storyline of the
storyline.
Daleks. And then we will convene again and talk.
We will.
We will.
Like a podcast.
Like a podcast. Speaking of podcasts,
Go ahead.
let's wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
If you are listening to this and you are like, this is not bad or pretty good,
We'll take either.
We'll take it either. If it is bad, just, I don't know, why are you still listening then? Why'd you make it to the end of the episode?
And we're very sorry.
You can subscribe on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and like probably a bunch of other places.
It will be on YouTube.
It will be on YouTube. Share it to friends that like or don't like Doctor Who.
You get the two perspectives. The super fan, although you're scared of what other super fans will say about that.
Yep.
And me as the fool. So if you don't know anything about Doctor Who, you're coming at it from my perspective.
So you get both perspectives, and you can follow us on social media. We'll have Facebook by the time that this episode's out.
Fancy.
And Twitter. Maybe I'll do a Twitter.
A tweet.
A tweet. I'll tweet on a Twitter.
Yes.
And you know, let us know if what you think of these episodes. If there's anything we missed, and if we miss a link, that's fine. Don't be angry about it.
We're just having fun.
We're all friends.
We're all friends. Hello, friend. Thanks for listening, friend.
Yes. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Goodbye.
What are you doing?
I'm reversing the polarity of my ultrasonic screwdriver's power source.
Reverse the polarity.
Reverse the polarity.
I just reversed the polarity.
Reverse the polarity.
He's reversed the polarity. Reverse the polarity of the new